That, or do you want me to?
You.
Okay. So I'm just going to wait till it clicks over to 5:30 and then we'll start, if that's okay.
It's weird.
Patiently waiting.
Longest man I've ever had.
Oh, I know. Okay, here we go. It switched over. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Matt, just before you start, are you able to mute all the participants so that we don't get background noise?
Oh, that's a good idea, Leah. I'm not sure how I do that. Michael? Can everyone mute themselves if that's okay?
I think I can mute all.
Yeah, do that. Awesome. Thanks, Leah. And we are recording, so thank you everyone for joining us. We'd like to thank Fabio for taking his time out of his busy schedule. Well, he is moving to Auckland soon, so he has taken out time from his schedule to do this presentation for us. We've had to delay twice now for COVID-19 reasons, but we decided we'll do it online. So, and we're recording it, so we can share it out once it's been recorded, and then people can listen to it later. So take it away, Fabio. Oh, yes. So Fabio is basically, okay, you can. Cool.
Not the best time to move to Auckland, right? Yeah. Hi, thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone to take time to be here. Yeah, I know it's a tough time. And thank you, TPN, for having me here. So I decided to create this presentation about shifting test left with collaboration across the automation world, because there are plenty of documentation, material, articles about how to do this on software. But actually, we don't need software to do that, just collaboration. And I put here in this presentation 7 techniques that you can use in your team, and it doesn't matter if you run Scrum or Agile, or if you are a waterfall person or you have a waterfall team. You can do this just by having collaboration in your team, okay? Sorry, this is the agenda for today. It's really quickly. Okay, I will just give a little bit of introduction about me and Scrum.org, and then I will try to describe a day in the life of the tester, and then I will try to explain why should we shift testing to the lab, and after that I will show my 7. It's not 7 my ideas, but 7 potential solutions to shift test to the left, all right? And then a summary. Oh my God. So that's me. Today I'm one of the 30 Agile coaches at the Warehouse Group. And I'm also a co-organizer at Agile Professional Network. I'm one of the co-organizers. And these are my contact details. Please feel free to reach out to me to any question about Scrum. But be aware that if you ask me questions about Scrum, I can talk about Scrum for hours. Okay, if you engage me, I will do that. And I'm also one of the professional Scrum trainers at Scrum.org, and this is my profile. So Scrum.org, for those who never heard about Scrum.org, is the home of the Scrum, right? Scrum.org was created by Ken Schwaber, the co-creator of Scrum, and we are a small community of 332 professional Scrum trainers around the world. Here in New Zealand, we've got just 4 professional PSTs. We call ourselves PSTs. So we have only 4 PSTs here in New Zealand, and these are the numbers of class that we have already taught. And at Scrum.org, we are a community that do trainings, and we also give certificate, actually not give, but we certify people in some areas like the roles of Scrum, Scrum Masters, Product Owner, Development Team, Scrum Scale, Kanban, Agile Leadership. And these are the certification holders, the number of certification holders in each level of these certifications, okay? So let's get started. A day in a life of this tester. So how many of you, actually you can answer me.
That's me over there.
Yes, thank you, Natalie. So how many of you guys feel in this situation every day? This is, for those who never watched, this is a scene from Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf faced a monster and he said, "You shall not pass." So, just to be clear, I'm not a tester, but I have been working with testers for 15 years, and this is what I see in the development teams, right? The tester is the person responsible for quality, is the person responsible to not let the bugs go to production. The tester is also the person that is blamed when some bug goes to production, is also blamed when there are some delays. And I just want to bring here one agile principle that's very important, which is build projects around motivated people, right? So how motivated do you feel in this situation when you face this situation every day? So in Scrum, the QA is not the only person responsible for quality, right? This is one benefit in Scrum. We've got a development team, which is a bunch of people that self-organize and are cross-functional. Self-organized means that no one tells them what to do, right? They self-organize to do the best of their job. And they are cross-functional, which means they have all skills to deliver one item from backlog to our customer, to turn this backlog item in product. And the team is not the left side of the table or the agent picture, because people, when we say development team, we think about a lot of developers. Actually, development in Scrum means people who actually develop the product, not coders or not programmers, not people who does the code. So in the development team, you can have QA, people from marketing, people from finance. We can also have developers, obviously. And the team is optimized for flexibility and creativity, right? Because we have different views, different point of views in the Scrum team. So the development team is more on the right side, more diverse. But Fabio, who is responsible for quality? The whole development team, right? So how can we keep quality in Scrum? There is one important thing, which is the definition of done, right? And to have an item done in every sprint, we need to read this definition of done. If definition of done requires testing. So if you have a look today in the Scrum guide, there is only one word for testing. That means you should test your product before code production, but the Scrum Guide doesn't prescribe how you do test. So in the professional Scrum Master training, we teach this, we show this picture, which is the all levels that testing that requires to get a product to the production. And actually in the who defines the definition of done is your company, right? Your company defines how you build the quality, how if you have some PCI compliance, for example, your company defines. If your company doesn't have a definition of done, then your Scrum team defines this definition of done in collaboration with product owner, business, how you are going to keep quality. So definition of done is what helps you to keep quality in the development team. So everyone understands what is done, what is something that we can deliver to our final customer. Right. So Fabio, now how can why is it important to shift test left? So I tried to bring this in one picture from Carper Jones. This is a famous graph that shows where the defects are introduced in our development life cycle, right? And most of the defects are introduced during the coding phase, right? We got coding, unit test, functional test, system. There are some defects that comes in the system test. And where does the defects are found? They are found during the unit test. Some of them are found during the functional test. And the red line shows the cost to repair a defect. So it's exponential, right? So if you find a defect on your right side in your release, look the amount of cost you have when you have a defect that is in production. The cost to repair the defect is very high. And so that's the main reason to try to find the defects on the left side, right, before coding, because even coding is very expensive. So we should try to reduce defects as much as possible and try to identify these defects before coding. Right, and if you want to read more about this graph, if you have never seen this graph, you can read this book, Applied Software Management, and he goes through this graph in each phase and explain very well. So now let's start to talk about some of the potential solutions to bring tests to the left. One of the potential solution is the three amigos approach, right? I put a picture of three people here, probably not the best picture, because I don't mean just three people looking to the requirements, looking to the customer needs. Actually, it's the whole group with three different points of vision: product, quality, and software development. Right? You can have your team with 10 people, but it's important to have all three different views to understand what the client wants, what the customer wants. Product owner can represent the business, or if you can bring the business to the refinement, to show them, to understand better the requirements, the needs of your customer. It's really good. So what's the main benefit of the three amigos approach? Is to understand the requirement from business instead of devs. right? How many times a developer comes to you as a tester and say, look, test this, and this scenario. He described three scenarios, three paths, and say, look, this is what you should test. And then you test, oh, that's fine, that's working. No, as a tester, you should have a business view and test. Probably they didn't think about the different systems that can be affected by that requirement. So that's why it's important to have a business view when you are testing something. So the three amigos approach helps you to test your assumptions and also improves the design of the feature, and also helps you to describe the acceptance criteria more business related. This is very at the very start of the requirement, the understanding of the requirement, and it's a high level view and very business oriented, right? And the next, what happened? The team test script. The team test script is another potential solution. This is more technical. So imagine that after understanding all requirements around the business, your team, developers and testers, we come together and we think about more technical stuff. And the team test script is a test script that we do together as a team using the Gherkin language, given, when, then. So given one scenario, when something happens, then take some action. And or then show some result or give some result. You don't need to use the Cucumber framework or BDD, behavior-driven development. It's just a description on how to test the feature, but more technical, with real data, with more scenarios, more technical scenarios. So we can do this during the refinement. The team test script is very flexible. You can do this during refinement, during planning, or when you start the new story. People just come together, the team just come together, and before starting the story, we create the team test script, and then after coding, after the code done, we can also test this the script. We can use the test script to test the increment or the software that we just did. Another, I put this picture here. Another idea or technique that you can use is the pair programming with developers, right? And I know that it's very hard to start this practice here. I know that there is a silo, and actually this is the best technique that you can use to break the silo between developers and testers, right? And if you don't feel comfortable as a tester to actually do the code or build code or create the code, you can be the navigator. So pair programming, for those who are not familiar with, is a technique that two people sit in one computer, and they switch who is the person typing the code and who is the person guiding the person who actually is doing the code. So there are two roles, the driver and the navigator. The driver is more focused on the code and tactical solutions, or in the function, he's trying to type the best code. And the navigator is thinking about something more strategic, and in something more strategic. And the navigator is also looking into different areas of the system, is thinking a little bit ahead of the driver. So if you're a tester and you want to try pair programming, you can ask your developer to just sit beside him and think about the requirement, think about the system, be the navigator and just not watch. Watch is not the best word, but just see what the developer is doing. So this gives you more opportunity to understand where the feature can impact in your system, how you are going to test that feature. So you can pair programming during the unit test creation, which is really good for tester. You can also pair program during the integration test when the developer is creating the integration test, or you can also do a code, actually do the code. Remember that this is, you need to switch when you are doing pair programming between navigator and drivers, the drive, switch between every 30 minutes, every 1 hour. So I think this is a great technique that helps developers to break the silence between, to break the silence between developers and testers. You should try, you should give a go on this. I know this is very hard, so that's why I put this picture here. And at least start this conversation with the developers. Another practice really cool is work in progress limit. So in Scrum, this is the beauty of Scrum. Scrum is a framework and we can use many techniques, right? And work in progress limit is it's a very good technique to stop starting and start finishing, right? So this is a picture from our board at the warehouse group, and we create a work in progress limit in a common agreement between the team that we have we can just bring 5 items to the ready to test column. So if there are more, actually we cannot put more than 5. If there are 5, we are full. If someone wants to bring a new item, actually they need to help the tester to remove the item before move to the right. So this technique helps to overload the testers at the end of the sprint. If we put a work in progress limit, the testers are obligated to actually help the tester to move things to done. So what I identified over these 7 years working with Scrum teams is that the testers at the beginning of the sprint, they are busy with the previous sprint. So they are really busy doing tests of from the previous sprint, and they are really busy at the end trying to test the items from the current sprint, right? And the developers actually on the last 2 days of the sprint, the developers are just staring at the testers, putting more pressure to get the test done, just waiting to get the test done before the review. So try this, talk to your developers, talk to your team, and identify what's the best work in progress limit for your team and give it a go. Another technique is the swarming test. What is swarming? Swarming is a situation where everyone drops what they are doing, the work they are doing, and they are just come to help the tester to get the work done. Doesn't matter if you are a developer, if you are another person from the development team, we come together to help one tester or to help to finish one feature, right? This is good because we can explore multiple solutions, right? Because we have different people with different point of views, and it's everyone together towards the same goal, which is get that feature done. So this helps to also shift test to the lab. Another technique that we've been using at the warehouse group is cross-test between developers. So imagine the situation that one developer just finished a feature and he asked another developer to test, do a black box test on his feature, right? And remember that team test script that I just described at the beginning. So we can use that team test script to give to the other developer, and he can test based on that team test script. This reduces the overload of tests that the tester or the QA needs to do at the end of the sprint. They can also help us on. They can also help the tester to do manual tests and create some scripts, create some do some automation, and this also helps to identify something that the developer didn't think about. Okay, have a look on this technique and talk to your developers to start this technique. Another, so I put this here. Actually, code freeze is something that blocks the agility, and actually this is a workaround. Okay, so if your developers is still changing things on the sprint, if they are still doing more developing and you are full of things to test, talk to your developers. They should actually do a code freeze in 2 or 3 days before the sprint. There is no prescription about this. Please, this is not the best approach for agility, but it's a good workaround. If you see that your testers or your team they still have lots of items to test on the last day of the sprint, so I would suggest you to do a code freeze before 2 or 3 days before the end of the sprint to help the tester to get the tests done. And just a summary, and I put here a timeline how this should work during the sprint. As I said, you don't need to put all this practice in place. You don't need to run all this practice, and you can try and see if it works for your team. If it doesn't work, just remove. This is the beauty of Scrum. You can inspect and adapt, and you can try new things. You can experiment something. Some of these techniques helped me in the past, but after 2-3 sprint, we identified that we should move to another technique. So how this works? Imagine the black items, the black color are the items for the current sprint. So pair programming, developers cross-testing. The three amigos is a technique that actually is for the next sprint, the sprint 2. And the team test script, you should look into the team test script before the sprint 2. And then code freezing, swarming, then you repeat the team test script. As I said, team test script is the more flexible technique here. Guys, I put this phrase here from Gunther, and this comes from Scrum. People extending their the skill sets through peer collaboration and peer learn, because it's all about collaboration. You can learn from your teammates, and they can learn from you guys, because you play a really important role in the software development area, and you keep the product a high level quality. That's it. Thanks again. Thanks for having me here. Now let's open to questions. No questions.
Anyone have any questions? Well, we've got to thank so much.
No questions.
From Caroline?
I have a question. Where are you going to self-isolate when you get to Auckland?
Good question. If they allow me to, actually, I'm moving to Auckland. I booked a motorhome, and hopefully they will let me in, because there are some roadblocks. I have no idea.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
David?
Yeah, I've got one for you, Fabian.
Yeah, sure.
So why don't we move towards a system where the quality becomes, it's owned more from the developers as opposed to what we have now, where the developers code something, can throw it over the fence and pass it to the testers and then walk away onto something different. It's something that we see, and it's a very hard mindset to change from. But one thing we're working on our team is to get rid of the I'm a programmer, but make every engineer responsible for the whole suite of development to testing. Do you see any drawbacks in moving towards something like that?
Yeah, I think this is the best approach. Actually, these techniques are some techniques to actually break this silo and have this conversation, because what I've seen in the teams that I work with is most of the time the tester is quiet. We invited the tester to the refinement, and the tester is quiet in the corner just watching without asking questions. Actually, the tester should speak up more during the refinement and ask more questions and test the feature during the refinement, right? So I think this could help to build more trust between developers and testers, because actually they can see, look, this guy knows what he's talking about, even if he is not a developer. And I don't mean to actually I don't want to change the tester craft here with this. I don't mean, look, as a tester you need to start coding. That's not my idea with this presentation, but you can be more proactive, ask more questions. There is some, in my opinion, there is some homework that the tester should speak up more, and because they play a really important, in my opinion, you guys, the testers, you play a key role in the development team, right? I'm not sure if I answered your question, but this collaboration, this communication, this trust, this relationship, there is some homework on the tester.
Exactly. If you've brought the tester in at the end of development, it's too late. They
Yes.
should be included from the start, without a doubt.
But I think the main problem in Scrum teams, I don't know if you run Scrum or if you run another agile method, but in Scrum teams, most of the time, the testers, you put the tester in another silo because the tester is busy testing the previous sprint, because the developers want to create more code, build new stuff, but they don't think, actually, we need to get things done together. The tester needs to, the development team, as I call development, but developers and testers together moving items to done instead of finish code in one sprint and let the testers test the item in the next sprint. This is a dysfunction in software development.
What I would recommend is pushing back. Are you a programmer or are you a software developer? If you look at the entire software development lifecycle, it's not just programming.
Yes.
It's requirements gathering, deprogramming, testing, releasing, documentation.
All together.
That is software development.
Yes.
Not programming.
Yeah, and I mean the team should be part of all the lives,
Exactly.
all phases of this life cycle.
Exactly
This is
right.
my view.
And I would be pushing back to the developers. Are you a software developer or are you a programmer? Because they are two quite different things.
That's why in Scrum we remove the roles of development team. There's no QA, there's no project manager, there's no marketing people, UX, front end, back end, but they are all together as a cross-functional team moving through this life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
This is how Scrum works. But if you don't use Scrum, you can use those ideas and have those conversations. Any question? Good question. Thank you.
Any more questions out there?
Yeah, I've got one or two, maybe three.
That's all right.
So first thing, right? I get a lot of in my team. I get comments like, I shouldn't be testing my own code. That's one. As well as you talk about testers being really quiet in refinement and planning and this kind of sessions. So I guess it's how do we any ideas how we can change this mindset where a developer or a software engineer would say I shouldn't be testing my own code, and also trying to get the testers to be more involved in the discussions. I don't know, any advice? Maybe put on your Scrum Master hat and say how should we encourage more?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good question. As a Scrum Master, I'll give you my experience, okay, in Scrum. As a Scrum Master, I have a lot of chats with testers. I go for a lunch, I give them feedback. But what you could do in your team is try to create a social contract. Okay, what is a social contract? In Scrum, we've got five values, and you can build your social contract based on those values, which is courage, commitment, focus, respect, and oh my God, I forgot it. But there are, what a shame.
Okay, you're on the spot.
But openness. And openness. So use these five values to build your social contract. How would you like to receive feedback? How would you like to create a good relationship with testers? So how you guys should speak up when there's something wrong. What more? This social contract is something that you can bring to your retrospective if you are a Scrum Master, and you can say, guys, we have a common agreement here that we will speak up, we will have a good relationship between developers and testers. We will be open to receive or give feedback. This social contract helps you to build this relationship, remove this silence. I repeat myself, again and again, because actually there is a silo between developers and testers. Let's be honest here. Every retrospective we need to bring this social contract and have those conversations. If you are the Scrum Master, or if you have a Scrum Master, ask him, okay, let's bring this problem, let's be transparent, let's try to move forward, and let's try. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Alvin.
Yeah, I think I get what you're trying to convey there.
It's feedback.
Yep.
Feedback, I think, but constant feedback, not just one. Every retrospective give feedback, or call this person to a coffee. There are many opportunities to give feedback. If you do feedback constant, it's going to be easier to actually embrace this value and change these behaviors.
Yep. Cool. Thanks.
You're up.
I've got another question if no one else has. May I?
Yes, go for it.
Yep. So another thing is we tend to find that the workload is there's, like you say, testers end up at the tail end of the development because they just get overwhelmed with the work of what was done probably like the previous sprint, things like that. I think that it's due to maybe my organization where we have testers who are also automators of code as well, so they write most of the automation, and that takes a lot of time to the fact of how it is, right? Don't know. I mean, would you agree? I don't know. It's like my question is like, with what you have suggested with the team test script and all, because what tend to happen is during test automation and during that period, the tester is also testing the system, probably with some manual testing and then writing automation for that. But if we have like what you suggest earlier with all the team test scripts and doing as a team, we kind of know that what we should be testing on all the test criterias, and with that we can actually offload the automation itself to like another developer who to help out, and then that kind of like offload the work of testers itself. I'm just trying to, I guess it's just trying to see what other things that work out there that try and minimize this tail-end testing, right?
Yeah. So the
Maybe
team test.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said, like shifting it left, right? But a lot of it boils down to the actual workload itself from the testers.
So if I understood, your question is more how to reduce the workload, right?
Yeah, I guess
What are the practices?
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I guess it's more of like what's how do we start like getting the developers to help out, right? And what the testers should be focusing on to get more value out of their testing rather than spending time writing automation than trying to maybe, I don't know, break the system instead.
So I think the team test script is a good practice to reduce the workload, and ask the developers to actually run the team test script. When I say run, it's not technical. It's not a software. Actually, it's a manual test. This team test script is more to think about your feature in technical words using the Gherkin language, and remember that we have across development testing, so they can run that team test script for the developers, and they can do a high level test with manual test, and they can by doing this they can reduce the workload of the testers. What I would suggest is the to reduce the workload at the end of the sprint is the work in progress limit. This could help your team.
Yep.
This is all about agreements, and all those practices we define, or we start use after a retrospective, because we identified some problem, or me as a Scrum Master, I identified those problems, and I suggest this practice to the developers, to the teams that I work with. And they said, okay, let's give it a go and see if we have some benefits, if we have some improvement. But in Scrum, you can try many techniques, right? You can use work in progress limit for one sprint. If it doesn't work, let's move to team test script. If it doesn't work, let's move to another. Or you can create your own technique, how reducing probably you can reduce the amount of work that you bring to the sprint. This could be another approach to reduce the workload, because when you keep the flow of the sprint narrow, actually it helps to improve your velocity. These are just suggestions. I think this is you can check on your context in your team and suggest, or you can come with another practice. Did I answer your question? A question?
Yeah. I think I get what you mean. Just curious, right? Like you're still with the warehouse group, aren't you? Right?
Yes.
How would like your usual how to say flow of events in terms of developing a feature, in terms of like the developers will start developing, or your testers will come in and then start, and then who writes the automation and things like that?
Yeah, I've got two situations at the warehouse group. One, I've got two type of teams. One is the e-commerce. The testers start to write automation after the refinements, after the planning, right? But they have a lot of help from the developers. And I have another team, which is the team that look after the POS, the POS, the system that runs on the store, and they have a more mature software. The software is there for over 30 years. They have created a good test framework. They have all structure in place for automation. So they have a lot of automation tests running, and they do more team test script, and the testers, they are responsible for automation. They created the automation scripts, and we start building the automation script after the planning. When they define what stories come to the sprint, they start doing the automation. But we are in a level of maturity at the warehouse group that we finish the story in the current sprint. There are just few stories that finish on the other sprint, to be honest with you. Sometimes we leave some one or two stories to the next sprint, but in the first day the tester finished the previous sprint, or sometimes we are waiting for third party, which is really common, integration, or we are waiting for the environment in the third party, and we have to wait to the SIT, right, the integration test.
Great. Sorry.
But answering your question, we start building the test script, the automation test after the planning. After the planning event, we start building the automation test.
Right. It's encouraging to hear that that's doable. Right? I'm trying to push for stuff like this as well within my team. But it's hard work.
Yes. Thank you for your question.
Do we have any other questions? Cool. So we'll call it an end to this meeting. Just want to thank Fabio again for all his hard work.
Yes.
And
Alvin, it's a question for me or for Alvin, Jessica?
A question for me or a question for
Alvin, sorry, in terms of the testers' workload.
Yep.
Do you guys do a retro at the end of the sprint?
Yeah, we do. I guess, our testers don't really bring that up because that's how it is. It's like business as usual. So I guess a lot of them accept it as a fact of life within my company. But yeah, I think that's something where I probably should bring it up and talk to the team about that, which is yeah, that's I think one of the best step forward for us.
So Alvin, the base of Scrum is transparency, inspection, and adaptation, right? And to have transparency, this level of transparency, we need to build trust, right? And trust, we can build trust by using the Scrum values: courage, openness, commitment, focus, and I forgot again. But use the five Scrum values to build trust between your team, right? And remember the social contract. Create a social contract. Create a common agreement between your team, and ask them to actually leave those five values of Scrum. This will build trust between them, and this will bring more transparency to the team, so they will be able to inspect and adapt themselves during the retrospective, as Jessica mentioned here.
All right, thanks guys.
There's another question from Jessica. If a retro is done at the end of the sprint, then the team can reflect on the last sprint and look at the velocity that could then be the basis of the new sprint plan. Perfect. Could be less commitment for a new sprint, or split store into even smaller store. And yes, communication is key. Thank you, Jessica. That's what she said also.
cool.
Is that a question or just a statement? Not a question, right?
I think it's a statement.
Just a statement. But that's correct. Yes, that's perfect.
Cool. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks everyone for attending.
Michael, awesome. Openness, courage, respect, commitment, and focus. Thank you, Michael. Awesome, thank you.
So I'd like to thank Fabio for doing this meetup for us and for sharing his knowledge. And also like to thank Michael, who's basically helped me set this up. So
thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, TPN.
And thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you again online soon. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye.
Guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
See you guys. See you, Liam.
See ya. Fabio.
Bye.
Bye.
Can I?
Yeah.